One of the great herbs for a culinary herb garden is oregano, and traditionally it's thought of the herb to spice up all that Italian food. And a lot of times when we give tours out here to children and we'll have them smell this herb, they'll instantly say it's pizza, and a lot of times it's known as the pizza herb. Now, oregano is a wonderful herb to put in the garden, and it grows quite well, and you'll notice that ours is in a prime spot. It's in a raised bed, so it gets very good drainage, and it's also in a full sun area, and those are the two requirements that oregano most needs. Now, we actually clipped ours back earlier this season when we were cleaning up the bed, and then it got nipped back by a frost. That's okay, because if you look down here underneath, there's a lot of oregano coming up. Some new leaves are coming up, so we can go ahead and clip this back just a little bit more and get that new growth some space to grow, and it will come out of it just fine. Now, if you're interested in planting some oregano in your herb garden, if you go out and start looking for it, you'll notice right away that there are a lot of oreganos to choose from, and it can get a little bit daunting. And so what we're going to do is look at a few of those and give you some of their pluses and minuses. Now, if you're out looking for a culinary oregano that you're going to cook with, you're going to want to get something other than just common oregano, which is actually, the Latin name is Origanum vulgare, because it doesn't have quite the flavor that you'll need. You'll want to look for something with a subspecies of Origanum vulgare, subspecies hirschum, or Origanum herculeatum, which is really hard to say. And actually, if you're not into the Latin names, what you're really going to want to look for is the Greek oregano. Now, usually Greek oregano will be what you want to cook with. Now, there is another test that you can do, and you can actually pinch off a leaf here and smell that, and if you get that nice pizza sauce type smell to it, you'll know that you've got a good culinary oregano here. Now, there are some cultivars of oregano that are more ornamental, and this is one of the golden cultivars, and there are several out, and they just make a nice accent plant for your garden, and they would have the same cultural requirements. Well, as you're looking for culinary herbs, you might run across another oregano, and this is actually sweet marjoram, and it is Origanum marjoram, and it has a very similar habit to oregano, and if you take and smell a leaf of it, it actually smells much like oregano, maybe a little bit milder, mixed with a little bit of a smell of balsam. Now, this is another perennial herb. It is more tender than the regular oregano, and you can plant this in your garden. It's hardy to zone 8, so in some areas it might overwinter if it were sheltered, but it is not going to overwinter as well, and a lot of times people will plant this as an annual. Now, this has a milder flavor than oregano, but you can use them interchangeably. What you would do if a recipe called for oregano and you had marjoram, you would add more marjoram, and if a recipe called for marjoram, you could add less oregano to substitute out. So just remember that its flavor is much milder, so if you don't like a really heavy flavor, then sweet marjoram might be what you want to look for. Well, this kind of leads us into a lot of plants that are named oregano, but they aren't even in the oregano family, and that is Mexican oregano. Now, this is actually in the verbena family, and if you smell its leaves, it has a similar scent to oregano, maybe a little bit more pungent, and this can be dried and used as oregano. It will be a little bit stronger. This, again, is not hardy here, but you can grow it as well. Then there are some other plants that are more of an ornamental bent, and that is Cuban oregano. Now, Cuban oregano is actually Plectranthus. It's not even an oregano. It has these nice soft leaves, and if you smell those, they smell not unlike turpentine, so it's probably not something you're going to want to cook with, but it has a nice kind of strong odor to it, very soft leaves, and this makes a nice compact plant in a pot or out in the herb garden. It is not hardy here, but it is a nice plant to put out in the garden. And we have a cultivar here that is actually variegated Cuban oregano. And we're going to be putting this in our variegated garden this summer as soon as we get past our last freeze date. So as you can tell, the whole oregano story gets a little bit mixed up, but with just a little bit of searching, you can find just what you want to cook with, as well as plant out in your garden.
We hope you've enjoyed this classic from the Oklahoma Gardening Vault. Remember, even though these tips and techniques are timeless, there's always something new to learn in the world of gardening. By subscribing to both Oklahoma Gardening and OK Gardening Classics, you'll have access to a wealth of gardening knowledge, both classic and contemporary.